down. Tie down. Whoa.
Did Mr. Wade say anything at that point? What did he say? At that point, Maurice Jackson started out of the tub. He had a gun, and you will hear that he could legally own a gun. He had a gun, and he took it out. 16 shots were fired in that bathroom. We do not know who shot first.
This is Maurice Vaughn Jackson, known on the streets of Columbus, Georgia as Lil Nuke, a 26-year-old rapper who was finally starting to get his flowers from his city. He was at his girlfriend's apartment in the early hours of the morning when a man with a gun kicked in the bathroom door he was hiding behind. And before the sun came up, Maurice was dead on that bathroom floor, shot 4 times, dying in the arms of the woman both men were fighting over. Before we get into what happened that night, you need to understand who these 3 people were, because this story only makes sense once you know what each of them was carrying into that apartment. The best place to start is with Chana Powell. She was 25, a Columbus girl her whole life, and she had been going back and forth with a man named Quincy Tyreek Wade for years before any of this went down. People throw the word toxic around a lot, but what Powell and Wade had was something else entirely. Wade had literally shot Powell in the thigh during one of their arguments, and she had stabbed him after he kicked her in a separate incident. They were filing police reports on each other and then telling the police to forget it over and over again, and somehow still ending up back together after all of that. That cycle of violence and makeup had been going on for years, and by September 2021, it had never really been broken. By that point, Powell was 11 weeks pregnant with Wade's baby and had finally decided she was done with him for real. That decision, and Wade's refusal to accept it, is what started the chain of events that ended with a body on the floor. The man Powell had started getting close to was Maurice, her co-worker at a solar farm just outside Columbus. They had not made anything official between them yet, but they were spending real time together, going to his family's cookouts, just building something. She would later describe him in court as always kind with me, which she said as a direct contrast to Wade, who she said threatens her all the time. They fight all the time. Now, Maurice was not just some random dude in her life. He was a real artist with a real following in his city.
Taking the mud, we gon' take down everyone he with. You win or you what? Nigga, this how real this shit can get. I stay on my 10s, cause I know how slimy this shit get. You lose or you win, they gon' know not to play me in this bitch.
Someone Columbus actually knew and respected.
Hey, it's your boy Lil Nuke, man. Follow me on Instagram, ATL Lil Nuke. Go get that. I ain't selfish on all platforms right now, man. Matter of fact, get all this shit, man. I'm out. Hook me into the game.
He had signed a record deal while he was still in high school, around 2013 when he was about 17 years old. His stage name, Lil Nuke, came from when he was a little kid. His mama gave it to him, and he said in interviews he never actually found out exactly why she chose it, but he ran with it anyway because it fit him perfectly. His biggest song on SoundCloud at the time, My Niggas Wildin', had pulled over 60,000 plays on its own. He had music videos out, features with regional artists, spots on Columbus compilation projects, and real love from his city, even if the whole country had not caught on to him yet.
I just wanted to touch people and make them feel it, like where we come from, like where I come from, like everybody else, you know, probably been through the same situation, 10 niggas on one couch, sitting on one couch, smiling nigga between the big gun in the house. Probably, you feel me? You probably go in the trap right now and see a smiling nigga. You feel me? But you feel me? That's, I just be trying to make you see it. Like,
yeah.
You feel me? I don't be trying to put no cap, trying to do all that.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
What made his music connect with people was that it came from somewhere real.
I've been told you. Take it so low, think you getting over. To these little niggas on big toes. You're in every one of my foot soles. Scout by nigga get loot though. King I get short, then it got boot though. Boot left the stove on, dope got cooked though. Shit, mark spot in your hood and I took over. OG gang 23 got good.
Back in 7th grade, Maurice had been shot while he was asleep, and he had survived it, made peace with it over time, and turned that pain into the foundation of everything he created after. He was not rapping about a life he was pretending to live.
Pain.
Yeah, why so?
Cause I've been through some shit.
Yeah, you gotta get it out.
And I don't like the I don't like to show it. Like I just like express it over the mic. Like
Real.
I like it. I want to talk about it through the mic.
He also legally owned a 9mm Glock, which made total sense for a man who had grown up the way he had, and he had every right to carry it. That gun would end up playing a central role in a murder trial 2 years later, so keep that in the back of your mind. Now let us talk about Quincy Wade, the man who set all of this in motion. He was also 26, a lifelong Columbus man, and he and Powell had a history together that went back several years. Their relationship had never been stable, even in the good times, and by the summer of 2021, the good times were long gone. The two had a documented pattern of violence between them, police reports that neither one ever followed through on, and a pregnancy that had become a real source of conflict because Wade had started questioning out loud whether the baby was even his. That accusation was the final straw for Powell, and that is where the breaking point began. The conflict between Powell and Wade escalated through text messages, which is where a lot of situations like this one begin. On September 4th, 3 days before the shooting, Wade sent harassing texts to Powell with messages that made it clear he already knew she was spending time with another man and knew where she was. Powell ignored all of it and hoped it would die down on its own, but it did not. The following day, September 5th, the texts turned into a full argument about the pregnancy, and after Wade accused her of lying about who the father was, Powell had finally reached her limit with him. She sent him 2 messages, "I'm done with you," and "I do not want you involved in my life."
He kept texting her and calling her, and on September 6th, Labor Day, while Powell and Maurice were at Maurice's family cookout just enjoying the holiday together, Wade was already sending Powell messages showing that he knew exactly who she was with and where she had been all day. After the cookout, around 12:30 in the morning on September 7th, Powell and Maurice went to the apartment of her friend Raquel Polk at Patriot Place Apartments on Buena Vista Road. Powell's 7-year-old child with them as well. The plan was just to relax and get some sleep, nothing complicated about it. Almost the moment they arrived, though, the texts from Wade started again, and Powell ignored every single one of them. By around 2:20 in the morning, the messages were getting more intense, and about 10 minutes after that, there was loud banging on the front door because Wade had pulled up to the apartment. Powell asked Polk to tell him she was not there, and nobody went to answer the door. Most people in that situation take the message and leave, but Wade refused to leave. Instead, he walked around to the back of the apartment where the sliding glass patio door was, the same one Maurice had left unlocked earlier when he stepped outside to smoke, and let himself in uninvited. The moment they heard him come through that door, Powell, Maurice, and Polk all ran into the bathroom and locked it. Maurice stepped into the bathtub and pulled the shower curtain shut. Polk got so frightened that she actually left the apartment entirely and hid outside in the dark. This left Powell alone in that bathroom, 11 weeks pregnant, knowing exactly what this man was capable of, listening to his footsteps coming toward her down the hallway. Wade came to that bathroom door with a 9mm Smith & Wesson in his hand and forced it open. What came next, Powell described in court with the kind of detail that stays with a person long after they hear it.
On your side. This is News 3 at 5.
Good evening and thank you for trusting WRBL News 3. I'm Phil Scoggins. My co-anchor Teresa Whitaker is off tonight. Testimony began this morning in the trial of a man accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend in September of 2021. Jurors are not tasked with deciding whether the defendant shot the victim. Rather, was it done in self-defense?
Did Mr. Wade say anything at that point? What did he say? At that point, Maurice Jackson started out of the tub. He had a gun, and you will hear that he could legally own a gun. He had a gun, and he took it out. 16 shots were fired in that bathroom. We do not know who shot first.
She said Wade pressed the gun to her head first, then moved it down to her pregnant stomach and told her he was going to kill her and the baby. Maurice had been sitting in that bathtub the whole time, behind that curtain, listening to a man threaten to kill the woman he cared about and her unborn baby. He pulled the curtain back and came out with his Glock in hand. What followed was 16 shots fired inside a bathroom the size of a closet, both men at point-blank range, shooting until both pistols jammed on a spent casing and neither one could fire anymore, with roughly 8 rounds from each man and both 9mm guns locking up at nearly the same time. Nobody in that room, not even Powell, who was standing right there against the wall, could say for certain who had fired the first shot. She told the court, "I assumed it was Quincy because he's the only one who had a gun that was visible." She could not confirm it either way, and that uncertainty would become the entire center of the trial 2 years later. When the smoke cleared, Maurice was on the bathroom floor with 4 gunshot wounds, and the shot that killed him had gone straight through the center of his chest and into his heart, while the others had hit his arm, his back, and his hip. Wade had been shot twice in both legs and was hurt badly, but he could still walk, and he used that to get out of the apartment as fast as he could. Powell followed him out into the hallway, screaming at him and asking why he came there at all, and Wade gave her 3 words back: "He shot me too." Then he headed for the door, and before he could leave, Powell snatched his Smith & Wesson right out of his hands, threw it on the couch so he could not take it with him, and ran back into the bathroom to Maurice. She got down on the floor with him, found a towel and pressed it against the wound in his chest, and called 911 while she held him. He took 1 deep breath and died in her arms at 3:22 in the morning, the apartment still thick with gun smoke. This was Columbus, Georgia's 50th homicide of 2021, and Maurice Vaughn Jackson was 26 years old. Columbus police arrived at Patriot Place Apartments at around 2:34 in the morning, and what they found painted the whole story without anyone needing to explain much. Maurice's body was on the bathroom floor, the bathroom door had been forced open, shell casings were scattered all over the tile, bullet holes were in the walls and the shower curtain, and there was a clear blood trail leading straight from the sliding patio door all the way through the parking lot to where a Dodge Charger had been sitting. Wade had literally bled his way out of the apartment and into the night. Police sent alerts to hospitals in the surrounding area to watch for a gunshot victim coming in, and that is exactly how they tracked him down. Instead of going to any of the hospitals in Columbus, where someone would have immediately connected him to the crime scene, Wade had his roommate, Xavier Stevenson, drive him 45 minutes away to a hospital in LaGrange, Georgia. When they got there, Stevenson told the staff and the local police a completely invented story to explain the gunshot wounds, claiming the 2 of them had been in Atlanta, where Wade was shot during a robbery gone wrong.
State's witness Xavier Stevenson took the witness stand, taking sole responsibility for the story he says he made up as to why defendant Quincy Wade ended up in LaGrange after being shot in Columbus by the man he's accused of murdering. Family from both sides hearing this testimony today and sharing their thoughts with me.
My whole feeling is really, I'm just numb to the whole thing. I've been waiting 2 years plus for this moment.
Maurice Vaughn Jackson's mother, Cleopatra Vaughn, is going through emotions as she listens to evidence in the shocking death of her son. Cleopatra heard state witness Xavier Stevenson say he drove the defendant, Quincy Wade, to the hospital the night both men exchanged gunfire.
So where they came up with that, who was it gonna say like, who was coming from Atlanta? I don't remember the exact story, what we exactly said we gonna say, but the main like we come from Atlanta, and I wanna say he tried to buy some weed with my dog, but like I said, that was my idea.
The jury also heard from Columbus Police Sergeant Thomas Hill. The state asked Hill about the interview they did with Stevenson and whose idea it was to go to the LaGrange Hospital.
He stated that it was Quincy's idea to go to LaGrange Hospital.
During cross-examination, Kendrick asked Sergeant Hill about his interview with Stevenson and what he learned in that interview.
And it's true what you learned in that interview that Mr. Jackson was in the shower when it happened.
That's what Mr. Stevenson reported had been said to him by Mr. Quincy.
Columbus police connected the dots through the hospital alert, showed up at the LaGrange Hospital that same night, and arrested Wade while he was still in his hospital bed recovering from surgery on his legs. 3 days later, on September 10th, he appeared in recorder's court, still in a wheelchair. The judge heard opening testimony from the lead detective, denied bail completely, ordered no contact with any of the witnesses, and sent the case to Superior Court. Wade would sit in Muskogee County Jail for the next 2 years waiting for his trial date to come around. The trial finally started in September 2023 before Judge Bobby Peters, with Chief Assistant DA Don Kelly leading the prosecution and defense attorneys William Kendrick and Mark Shellnut representing Wade. Jury selection happened on September 25th, with 12 jurors seated, 8 women and 4 men, and testimony began the following morning, with both sides laying out very different explanations of what that night actually meant under Georgia law. Kelly's argument came down to one core idea. Wade was the primary aggressor from the moment he walked through that door with a gun in his hand. Under Georgia law, when you enter a place you have no right to be, commit a crime while you are there, and start the confrontation yourself, you give up your right to claim self-defense entirely. Kelly argued the question of who fired first did not matter, because Wade had already lost any legal protection before the shooting even started. And he pushed back hard on the defense, framing the relationship as 2 people equally at fault. He called it domestic violence, with one clear perpetrator, and telling the jury the other side was doing the oldest thing defense attorneys do in cases like this, finding a way to put the blame back on the woman. Chama Powell took the stand as the main prosecution witness and walked the jury through everything from the ignored texts to the moment Maurice died in her arms, including the gun to her head, the threat to kill her and the baby, Maurice coming out of the shower curtain, and her disarming Wade after it was all over. She described Maurice as always kind with her and told the court she still had flashbacks every time she closed her eyes. Defense attorney Kendrick went after one specific detail during cross-examination. The part of Powell's story about Wade pressing the gun to her pregnant stomach and threatening to kill the baby had not appeared in her very first statement to police on the night of the shooting. It only came up in a follow-up interview 9 days later, which happened to be after Wade had already appeared in court and publicly claimed self-defense.
When Ms. Powell was first interviewed and talked to about this incident, she didn't say nothing about Mr. Wade. Pulled the gun on her, put it to her stomach, put it to her head, say, "I'm gonna shoot you and the baby." That's all cap, that's all made up.
Testimony expected to continue Tuesday in front of Judge Bobby Peters. Reporting in Columbus, Hannah James, WRBL News 3, on your side.
Kendrick argued to the jury that Powell added that detail specifically because under Georgia law, if someone threatens a serious crime against you, you can legally use deadly force to stop them. Meaning without that threat, the story of who was really in the wrong shifts significantly.
The defense version of the night was that Wade came through the sliding door the way he had entered before, because Polk herself confirmed in her testimony that Wade had been to the apartment on previous occasions and had even been given access through that same door. Kendrick argued Wade came only to talk, had no idea Maurice was hiding in the shower, and was shot first in the legs by a man he did not even know was there. On the drive to LaGrange, Wade had told Stevenson that Maurice shot first from behind the shower curtain and that he had fired back to save his own life. GBI firearms expert Catherine Jordan testified that both guns had fired roughly 8 rounds each before jamming on a spent shell casing, confirming the exchange was fast, close, and completely chaotic inside that tiny bathroom, and nothing in the physical evidence could point to who had fired the first shot. The medical examiner confirmed Maurice's 4 gunshot wounds and the fatal chest shot that went straight to his heart. After 3 full days of testimony, both sides rested their cases without the defense putting Wade on the stand. After the evidence closed, the families on both sides were given a chance to speak. Maurice's mother, Cleopatra Vaughn, said,
"He was where he was supposed to be, unbothered and unbothering. He had the right to defend himself and whomever he was with at that time."
And Wade's mother, Jolene Wade, said,
"But I'm telling you, it's one common denominator with this whole thing, and that's Shayna Powell. And I think she should have got some charges."
Closing arguments started the morning of September 29th, and the jury went to deliberate at 1:15 that afternoon. They spent about an hour going back over crime scene footage and interview recordings, and asked the judge several questions about what self-defense, home invasion, and criminal trespass actually mean under Georgia law. They came back just before 7 in the evening with their answer, which shocked a lot of people in Columbus.
Let's start this morning in the courtroom where a Muskogee County jury handed down a not guilty verdict in a murder trial late last night. The case involves two Columbus men dating the same woman.
That's right. The jury has found Quincy Wade not guilty of felony murder, malice murder, aggravated assault, and home invasion. In September of 2021, according to police, Quincy Wade was arrested in LaGrange and charged with the murder of 26-year-old Maurice Von Jackson, also known as Lil Nuke. The murder happened at Patriot Place Apartments off of Buena Vista Road in Columbus. We learned this week in court, Shanna Powell says Quincy Wade showed up at her door unexpectedly after suspicions Shanna was with another man, Maurice Von Jackson. During the confrontation in the bathroom, Powell says Wade threatened to shoot her and their unborn child. Jackson was hiding behind the shower curtain and revealed himself once the threats were made. And Quincy Wade claiming self-defense once it was revealed during a testimony. Jackson also hit Wade in the leg twice. We also spoke with the victim's family before Friday's verdict, and they told us they just wanted justice for Von Jackson.
So you won't hear her voice due to technical difficulties, but we'll tell you what she said. Surrounded by her family outside the courtroom, Von Jackson's sister says she wanted justice to be served yesterday. Life has been difficult without her brother for the past 2 years. They grew up very close, living in the same household, and life has been different without him here. Wade has already served the past 2 years in the Muskogee County Jail.
And because of the time Wade already spent in Muskogee County Jail, the misdemeanor charge he was found guilty of Friday already has a credit towards being served. He's facing an outstanding charge in another case that the judge could not share information on.
The jury came back not guilty on malice murder, not guilty on felony murder, not guilty on aggravated assault, and not guilty on home invasion, with a guilty verdict on one count only: criminal trespass, a misdemeanor that carries a maximum sentence of 12 months in jail. Wade had already been locked up for over 2 years waiting on that trial, so he walked out the door with credit for time served and did not spend a single additional day behind bars. Kendrick told reporters afterward that the jury had focused on who actually injected the violence once the shooting started, and that once gunfire begins, there is no way to undo what follows. What the jury essentially decided was that even though Wade was wrong to show up that night, and they confirmed he was wrong by finding him guilty of the trespass, once Maurice came out of that shower curtain with his gun drawn, Georgia law could not make Wade responsible for the murder. Maurice's father said the whole thing was simple to him. His son saw a man pointing a gun at a pregnant woman and did what any decent person would do in that moment. When trouble came knocking on their door, Maurice answered. The system gave Wade a trespass charge and sent him home. Maurice's family got a funeral. His music is still up on SoundCloud right now, still getting plays from Columbus people who grew up watching him perform, still collecting comments from listeners who found him after he was gone. His biggest track, the one he dropped back in 2012 when he was still a teenager grinding in his city, still has people in the comments typing nothing but his name and what always follows it.
Cause I'm grinding dead. Get you robbed by your own cuz. In the hood with this shit, got my Glock in this stick with me, bitch. You keep talking about swerve. Think I'm worried all about it, fuck about it. Got 6, got 40s, white folk got a bad. Run down on that nigga, all running this Mac. I be with this shit, as my mama, I'm toxic. This shit can get bad. What's happening, what's cracking? I want me some action. Fuck all of that capping, I'm trying to get at. I'm just trying to rob and be cool on the way. I'm sending the bitch, cause I need me a tap. I don't need for the big one, that bitch on the plate. You a rat, I'm a sneak, and that bitch gon' get 8. And the night of the day, we gon' slide around this life. I'm a seen them young niggas that eat up your face. I'm back on that deep, double little bitch shit. Talking this street shit, fuck shit, I be. No, this ain't no TSC, but I be creep. Bitch, on hold with the niggas, and we gon' be easy. He talking real hard like he harder than CC. You better be on it, I know you ain't on it. On sight, gunfight, chopper go knock out this happy. Got him bitch in this beat, who wanna try? Lost tribe in the dice game, but I ain't worried about it. I ain't crossing nigga eye, cause the nigga went silent. Nigga say he gon' raw, nigga I die. I ain't tatted no masterpiece, but this brush, she turned me to an athlete. I screaming fuck the ass, I'm posted on me drop. Catch me posted with this stick and dirty Glock. We gon' run this like no dope, nigga, don't give a fuck if the dope lock. Nigga sweeter than a blow pop. The chopper kinda young, get no chop. I'm on my top in the twist off his top, and it could hold a third. Tryna do what be third. We gon' clean up your blood like community service. This bitch gon' rain. I just spat him like curry. I got perfect aim. Whoa. Got a fuck nigga breaking the code. Breaking man.
Do you think justice was really served in this case? Let me know in the comment section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.